Hello, everyone. We're just going to give it a minute or so that people can join and that we all can share this to certain profiles. So we'll be with you momentarily. Okay. I do not, it's not on yet, so there's a little bit of a delay. We are now live, and we're just allowing a few viewers to join and sharing to our various profiles. Okay. And I'll allow for them to share to theirs. Okay. Great. As we're building our viewership, I will introduce myself. Welcome, everyone, to Around Town TV. My name is Carla Berlin, Minnesota's lifestyle and business experts. We've been bringing you the best kept secrets, businesses, organizations, and people since 2003. We actually are now the longest airing television community showcase, and we've taken our show to live streaming to where our viewers are, which is where all of you are. And we appreciate you tuning in. We've been on air since 2003, and tonight's very special to me. As you can see, we have three special guests. We have the co-executive directors, Angie and Jessica from MnCAN, which is Minnesota Connect Aphasia Now. We're going to hear from them shortly. And we have Janine, who is here to share her story with all of you. Thank you to all three of you.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
So, Jessica, let's start with you. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your history and background with the viewers. I just think both of what you and Angie have done are so relevant and play into what the why of MnCAN.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jessica Wald, and I'm a speech language pathologist. I've been practicing in the field for 20 plus years. So I've worked with adult patients and individuals who've had multiple medical issues. I've worked in a hospital setting most of my career. And one of the diagnoses I've worked with is people with aphasia, and we'll talk more about what that is. But within the hospital setting, we might see someone with a brain injury or stroke or something that affects the language part of the brain that causes aphasia. And Angie can describe that more as we talk, and Janine can tell you her story. But about a year ago, Angie and I were asked to become co-executive directors of MnCAN. So MnCAN stands for Minnesota Connect Aphasia Now. And it's a nonprofit that was established officially as a nonprofit 10 years ago, and was founded by two speech pathologists, Cindy Bush and Julia Halverson. And even before it was a nonprofit, Cindy Bush worked with grad students who were speech pathologists to try to help connect people who had a diagnosis of aphasia to come together, meet people like them, and feel like they were supported in a safe and really friendly environment. And so, long story short, MnCAN was born 10 years ago. And we literally just continue to grow and thrive. And I'm just so excited to be part of it. So I'm really happy to share our story today.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And Angie, the other co-executive director, or that is your titles, right?
Yep.
Co-executive. Yep, that's what I thought. Angie, I know you've got an extremely impressive background as well. If you wouldn't mind sharing that with our viewers.
Sure. So I'm Angie Mayer. I am also a speech pathologist, practicing for 20 years this year. And my experience is also mostly in the medical setting. I've worked in the inpatient hospital, like acute care, level 1 trauma centers in the cities, and I've worked in more rural hospitals as well, doing inpatient care and outpatient care, kind of under the medical model of therapy. And then I came to MnCAN about 4 years ago. I was just looking for a change and wanting to spend more time at home and be with family. And the MnCAN opportunity came to me, and it's just been a blessing to be able to be part of this community that brings people together, lets people support one another. So being with MnCAN has just been so fantastic for my career, but also just for the community has been great. So Yeah, 20 years experience as an SLP, and now getting to use that here in addition to kind of doing some of the behind the scenes things in MnCAN. So helping out with programs and helping out with a lot of the operational administrative tasks as well. So
Fantastic.
yeah, it's been a dream. It's been great.
Well, and I laughed. The reason I laugh is to say I wanted more time with family. I know running a nonprofit is
Yeah.
extremely happy. So I'm like, well, how's that going for you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
God.
Lindsay and I always say we don't know how. So we share this job. We're each 20 hours a week, but we don't know how someone did this position. Julia, when she was the executive director, I mean, it's a lot of work, and we kind of divided out, as Angie said, she's in operations and our programs, and I do more of our fundraising and our marketing and communications. And so together we balance each other out really well. We actually have known each other for 15 years as speech pathology colleagues a long time ago. And so it's fun to come back together and now get to do this together too. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, and many of you know from a post, but a lot of people don't know that have followed me for years, that my late grandmother, who passed away in 1995, well before I ever started the show in 2003. And if you guys are hearing a ding,
Sorry.
it's one of the aphasia or the MnCAN computers, and we don't know how to turn that off. So
sorry about that.
it's just, oh yeah, it's not someone's cell phone or whatever. It's just a part of the system and the software system. So anyway, my grandmother had aphasia, and I was asking my aunt, one of her daughters, of just a little bit more of the history and background, because we're going to get into what aphasia is and stuff. And a lot of those that end up with it were stroke survivors or had a stroke, where my grandmother did not. It is believed, though, in 1918, during that pandemic or Spanish flu, that she had contracted that this was kind of a longer form, something from that had stayed lamented, but she was also diagnosed with focal Alzheimer's. So this is very near and dear to my heart, because as I've shared with all three of the gals joining me here today, that she loved to write and talk, and she had a great sense of humor. And so really impacted me as her granddaughter to that. So I really, really appreciate you, all three of you, being here to help me share what aphasia is. In terms of MnCAN and Minnesota Connect Aphasia Now, is there anything that either one of you didn't cover that you would like to share more of what that is?
Yeah, Angie, do you want to talk about what aphasia is and the types of things that we do in our organization?
Yeah, and I also wanted to just quickly mention, Jessica mentioned that MnCAN started 10 years ago with one group of people. And now we're up to 15 groups of people meeting together. So each group is 6 or 7 people that come together. And so just the growth over the past 10 years. And then we've got probably 8 additional programs beyond our conversation group. So it's a really fun time to be a part of the organization, because there has been so much recent growth and so much energy and just positivity, including things that we get to do like this interview and meeting together with other people and just kind of sharing the word of MnCAN and making it an outreach so people who might need an aphasia group can find out about us. I mean, that's our ultimate goal, is providing education and then just the resources and groups for people to join. So that was a side note. I would love to talk. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask a quick question. You are the only nonprofit doing this for aphasia, correct?
That's correct. The only in the state of Minnesota. And we're a little bit unique in the sense that all of our groups remain the same from one session to the next. And so they're small groups, and people really get to know each other and form friendships. They're not open groups. They're intentionally small because we want it to be supportive of every single person that's there. So they're all facilitated by a speech pathologist, supported by graduate students. So, all of our programs are using a research-based approach to aphasia care, a little different than like a hospital setting. But yes, all of our groups they're growing, and it's just great that they're small, like tight-knit communities.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, and I had interrupted. You were getting into a little bit more
Yeah.
of the aphasia and what it
Yeah.
is and what happens to the brain, et cetera. And I didn't know if Jessica or yourself, I'll kind of let you both kind of
Yeah.
tag team here. Yeah.
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 So
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Jessica.
I was just gonna say, I think I know that I tend to kind of, because I've done this for so long, the word aphasia just rolls off my tongue and I know what it is, but a lot of people don't know what aphasia is. And so I think it's like 84% of people have never heard the word aphasia before. And
Mhm.
so the medical word aphasia just means a language disorder. So it can be related to speaking, understanding, reading, and or writing. It can
Mhm.
affect one of those areas and not the rest, or it can affect all of those areas. And so imagine if, any of us, and Janine's going to share her story, but imagine if you were talking like we are now, and then the next thing you know, you can't get the words out that you want to say. You might not be able to say any words. You might only be able to say a few words. You might not be able to say your loved one's name or say I love you or just say a common greeting. I mean,
Mhm.
it can be so isolating and life changing. And so the work
Mhm.
that we do in our groups, like Angie was saying, is we bring people together who have aphasia to practice their conversation, to meet new people that have aphasia who might understand what they're going through. Everyone with aphasia is different, but they may
Mhm.
find commonalities and know that they're not alone. Like, I think that's the biggest thing, is like, they're not the only ones going through this. And then also in our programs, we have support groups. We have care partner support groups for loved ones of people who have aphasia, so they can talk to each other about what they're dealing with. And we have a young adult support group that deals with people 50 and under who may have aphasia. That's a kind of a different perspective on what they're going through in that stage of life. We have primary progressive aphasia programs, which maybe Angie can talk more about the different like types of aphasia. But I just think it's such a place that brings connection and hope and community, like Angie was saying too, which is what we're really proud of, is fostering this, and the growth again that we've had. And even the last year has been amazing. We brought on a mental health professional to help with our support groups, just to have another layer of that professional care to help with that resource, because a lot of people just feel like they don't know where to go. And so we're kind of a hub for all things aphasia, I would say.
Mhm. Thank you both for what you're doing.
Mm.
I know there was some statistics that, we were going to maybe use as graphics, but with all four of us, there just wasn't enough room. But is there some statistics that we can give up front here? I know you said, like, for example, 80 some percent don't even know the word. And actually, I had that conversation with my aunt. I said, I wonder how many people know grandma had aphasia.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just knew she couldn't talk, or she would try. She knew what was going on, but she couldn't get the words out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, like if she was going to say Sue and Bruce, two of my cousins, she'd say Spruce.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, we all remember those things, but we didn't know. I did, but I'm one of the older cousins. So I
Yeah.
don't know if there was some statistics like that you wanted to share.
Yeah, the statistics that we do share come from the National Aphasia Association. So they're not things that we did the research on, of course, but as we mentioned, about 84% of the people have never heard of the word. And then about 9% of people that have heard of aphasia can identify it as a language disorder.
Mhm.
And then about like 15% of the people, think they maybe first heard the word aphasia from a newspaper, magazine, or something online. So
Wow.
there's a lot of work to be done. There's 2 million people in the United States that have aphasia, and such a small percentage of people that actually know what it is. So it's a big job, providing education and resources to the
Right.
community, whether it's Minnesota or beyond. We partner with other national organizations, that we're kind of a team in all of this. So it's really fun to kind of think like what is needed in our community and like try to meet those needs. What education can we provide that isn't there right now, or how can we provide it differently? So just making, spreading the word. That's a big part of what we're doing, is spreading the word. Because we feel like when people understand aphasia, like everybody communicates better.
Yeah.
Like when we talk with our groups of people, like if we understand it, we communicate better with people in our groups, and the same goes for a person with aphasia to communicate with their family or their friends or their community, their neighbors. Like if all those people around them understand it, like everybody does better. Everybody's more confident. Everybody's happier because the conversation is more successful. So it's just
Absolutely.
really important for, for all of those affected by it and, living in community with people to understand it a little bit more.
Well, and who gets aphasia or what happens to the
Yeah.
brain to cause aphasia?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there are a number of causes actually. Probably the primary cause that we see is when somebody has a stroke on the left side of their brain. That's kind of the language center of the brain. So a left-sided stroke results in aphasia. And then also like a right-sided body weakness, a physical weakness at times, not always, but sometimes that right side is not as strong after a left-sided stroke. So left-sided stroke causes aphasia, but also like a brain tumor. Some diseases can cause it. Like Jessica mentioned, there's a progressive form of aphasia called primary progressive aphasia, which is different in diagnosis and nature. We have different programs for that diagnosis also, but typically a stroke. And then, as we kind of highlighted already, but aphasia it's invisible often, but it's very real. You might not recognize it immediately, but it's a very real diagnosis that has real life impacts. But it does not, in fact, affect intelligence. I think that's a big thing to highlight is like,
Yes.
it doesn't affect intelligence at all. It affects language. It might also affect speech, like the production of sounds, like that's something related, but not exactly aphasia. It's called dysarthria or apraxia. They might also go along with that, but the aphasia itself is a language impairment that impacts kind of the big areas, expressive language, so speaking and writing, and then receptive areas, so kind of that understanding piece and the reading comprehension. So kind of thinking about all the things that we do every day in our lives, right? We wake up, we might read the news, we might listen to the news, have conversations with family, have a cup of coffee, all of those things can be impacted. Going to Caribou is impacted, calling and making a doctor's appointment can be affected. Those things are hard. Reading a book is not the same as it used to be. So all those, I think those really, any conversation, any language can be impacted by aphasia. And every person is going to be different. Aphasia looks different for every single person. There's not just one straight way to look at it. It's affected, even day to day, a person with aphasia something can be easy one day and hard the next. Good and bad days are very real,
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, because I know in a lot of the information you sent me,
Yeah.
Both of you or all of you, that aphasia, someone can get better, but I'm guessing with progressive, like my grandmother, she never did.
Yes.
That is a different form. It is progressive in nature. If that is a diagnosis of, primary progressive or other types of progressive aphasia. And with those diagnoses, what we can do is provide education and really educate care partners and family members to kind of just support that person as it progresses and just help them to feel as independent and successful as, they're able to be. So support is the big, help in that diagnosis and education, just understanding it.
What else, Jessica, would you like to add to that?
I was going to say, just with the recovery of aphasia. So when someone has a stroke, with any part of their stroke, whether it's aphasia or something else, we usually see in the medical field, the first few months after that stroke is where there's maximum recovery, where maybe the person's getting therapies. And then there's also something called neuroplasticity in the brain, which is kind of spontaneous recovery or reconnections of maybe the areas that were affected. But people can make a recovery for a much longer than that, and they continue to make progress. And there is no set timeline. There's some, doctors might say, well, you have a year to get better and that's it. And we know that's not true, but they're looking at research, or they're looking at like,
I know that's not true.
Yeah.
Good. You're living proof as a survivor of stroke with aphasia. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so what I know from working in the hospital setting is I tell people, I don't put a timeline on recovery. Everybody's different, but I want to also give them hope, and it's a real hope. It's not I'm not trying to give them false hope. I want them to know that if you keep working and you keep stimulating the brain, things can continue to improve. And what I've seen with MnCAN, which I think Janine can talk about soon about her experience, is we have people in our programs who have been in our programs since it started 10 years ago. And they feel, and even family and friends might comment like, gosh, I feel like your communication just seems like a little bit better because they're practicing weekly with their groups. And they're really like challenging themselves into different situations versus, a lot of people might not have this kind of a resource. And so they're going to sit at home and they can't work anymore because, their aphasia has affected that ability or maybe whatever they were doing as a career. And if any of us sit at home and don't stimulate our brains, right, that's not going to help. And so what we've noticed with our programs is that people feel like they're making progress and people's families and friends see it. And I've seen it as a pathologist who I knew people could still get better, but seeing it every single day in our MnCAN programs just reminds me why this is so important.
Oh, I love that. I love to hear that. And, and we'll come back and talk more on some tips on how to communicate. But I think, Janine, I'd love to get into more of your story. So for those who are just tuning in, my name is Carla Berline, host of Around Town TV. And I have with me Jessica and Angie, the co-executive directors of MnCAN, Minnesota Connect Aphasia Now. And now we get to hear from a person who has survived a stroke but has aphasia and telling her story. Janine, thank you for being so patient. And I will just let you.
Hard. I'm sorry, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're on the edge of your seat waiting.
Yeah, and now it's your turn. Thank you. And go ahead and just share a little bit about your story that what you've been through.
So I had my stroke July 6th of 2021.
Wow.
Okay. And it was my brother my brother just oh Jesus, now
it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, so what was told to me is that July 6th of 2021 you had your stroke, and then your brother was with you. You had to call your brother. You were in the same house, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're in the same house, and my brother oh sorry.
You're doing great.
No, I'm trying to figure out who's talking.
Oh, I know. We're hearing live streaming. We're hearing typing, and we're hearing the text, that one software, and there was some people, but I think it's quieted down. I don't hear it anymore. Do you? No. Okay.
No, probably not. I'm sorry. No.
You're fine. No,
Right.
you know what? That's what people don't understand with aphasia: distractions. And there's nothing more distracting than doing a live stream. So you're a rock star.
You are, Janine.
Yeah, you're doing perfect, and you look.
So an ambulance got called, okay, and then and I went to Ridgeview first, but they couldn't help me, basically. So I went to Abbott, and then I ended up having a surgery, and I had a stent put in.
Okay.
And then I got a CAT scan, and they said, well, this just didn't work. And it's like, what do you mean it didn't work? It just didn't work. So it's like, okay, so now I have a stent sitting in my carotid artery, but it's like, oh, well, whatever,
Right.
it is what it is.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah, so now I just have my stent now I just have my carotid artery that's there, in there, whatever. So,
Just.
yeah. So,
It's-
and then, so I spent 4 weeks in intensive care, not intensive care. I
I
spent 5 days in ICU, and then I spent 4 weeks, really 3 weeks, in um,
the
sorry,
hospital? Oh, you're doing great.
um, uh,
Were you at Abbott for those 3 weeks?
yes,
Doing therapy. Is that what you're thinking, Janine?
Oh,
what?
yeah.
Doing therapy?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Oh,
So we're in therapy. I had physical therapy, I had speech therapy, and I had occupational therapy.
oh
And
my
I
God.
did all three of those. And then after I was out, then I went and I spent another year doing uh, doing a whole other thing. We did basically a whole other thing on outpatient. Okay,
Okay.
we did outpatient, and that's when I heard about MnCAN.
Okay.
Okay, and so Holly, I think it was Holly. Was it Holly that you heard from Holly? I can't remember if it was Holly.
Caitlin,
No, I thought it was Holly.
maybe.
I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it really doesn't matter. So anyway, so that was what when I heard about MnCAN.
How has MnCAN made a positive impact in your life and why?
You know, I have to say that it's been absolutely great. There's just it's amazing they um, how they just um, um, how
What are some of the things you've done with MnCAN? Like, do you have groups or do they
Yeah.
work?
So I have constant conversation groups, and then I have a book club.
Oh, wow.
So I have 2 conversational groups, and then I have a book club. Okay, and it's been just fabulous. I mean, it really has been just fabulous. And
Do you have
Yeah.
a favorite thing? Do you have a favorite thing that you like when you think of MnCAN, you feel a certain way or like you look forward to something specifically, Janine?
um, I like the interaction.
Mhm.
I really like the interaction, a lot actually. And I have a church group that I go to, and then I have Zoom. So I have both, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of nice to be able to do that. But
That's great.
so yeah, so it's decent.
Mhm.
The speech therapists have been just awesome. They've been just totally awesome. Yeah.
Well, you're awesome, Janine.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
We're lucky to know
make
you.
it fun and goofy, so
Well, and
Trying
a
it.
lot of times when a guest like yourself is asked to share the story and then you talk through things like we've just talked through, sometimes there's things you may think of like, I just wish everybody knew this about aphasia or what I go through. Is there anything like that that you'd like to share?
So, FYI, everyone that has aphasia is different.
Mhm.
Oh,
Okay, so you can have I have my stroke, right? And there's other people can have a stroke too, but it's always different. It's always different. It's like I have not seen a person yet that doesn't have something different, and it's interesting. It's totally interesting.
That is, and such a well, and really with many diseases, whether it's heart disease, cancers, I mean, no two people are the same, but this
Mhm.
really has been intriguing to me about how different aphasia
Yeah,
is.
it, it's totally different actually. And yeah, so I can't
No,
say.
no, you're no, I appreciate what you're sharing. It's impactful. And for those again just tuning in, Janine has been sharing her story of having a stroke and surviving that, but also ending up with aphasia, which is what we're featuring and talking about today is MnCAN, which stands for a nonprofit that stands for Minnesota Connect Aphasia Now. And I also have with me the two co-executive directors who are here who have been explaining what aphasia is and how it affects the brain and so many other things. And I'd also like to get into some of the tips now that we've heard a little bit from Janine and her story. And Janine, you feel free to add too. But what are some tips for all of us trying to communicate with a person with aphasia?
Yeah, Janine, I was going to say, Janine, do you have any tips that you could give people that make it easier for you to communicate?
You know what? Um, I can say it, but I have to have some time to say it.
Yep.
Okay.
Extra time, right?
Yeah. So if so that's a major thing. It's just I need to have some time to make sure that I can think about it. You know.
And I think in our society, things are so fast paced all the time.
Yeah.
People don't often have the ability to know that. Right.
Right.
And even in like a hospital setting, when I see a person with aphasia, and then they say, well, the doctor came in and they talked so fast and they told me all this information and I didn't even have time to understand it or ask what I wanted to. And so I'll try to tell if the person's able, I'll try to say, you need to try to advocate for yourself or have the family advocate and say, could you say that again? Or could I hear that again? Or I need a little more time, which a lot of people with aphasia, especially right away in the hospital, can't do that.
Oh,
But I think, it's important to remind all of us, I'm a very fast talker and I do this for my living. Like I should know this, but I tend to talk really fast. And so I have to remind myself to just slow my rate down, especially when I'm in my communication groups, because everyone processes differently. And sometimes that processing is affected with aphasia, depending on, again, that person's individual situation. And sometimes processing is not affected. But usually the processing, thinking of the words for most people has been affected in some way or thinking of that word.
And that's where I'm at. I mean, I can talk just fine, but I can't think. I can't really think what I'm talking about. I can think. Oh God.
Well, and one thing that I don't think people realize that I've noticed is, like yourself, Janine, you're bright. The stroke didn't
Yeah.
affect that, but like you said,
No.
sometimes the thinking and the talking and that part connecting, you can
Yep.
think and you can talk. It's connecting the two. Is that okay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can think just fine.
Right.
The problem is I can't talk.
Right. And people don't understand that most people that have followed my show for 20 years knew my parents. They were on my show. They were special guests on my show. They were both had a variety of things. Both were ended up passing from terminal cancers, but mom had MS, was deaf, and just the journey of everything that can happen through metastatic breast bone cancer. Dad had metastatic breast or metastatic lung and lymph node and brain cancer, but he also had a stroke. He had had heart surgery about 18 months prior, and we almost lost him before, during, and after.
That's crazy.
Yes, but we were able to. There was one nurse in particular that stood by his side along with the surgeon, and it was kind of a miracle. Well, it was a miracle, and the power of my parents' love pulled him through, and of course, God. But what was interesting in that, and you both, everyone kind of has mentioned this, is advocation. I was that advocate. I didn't leave their side. I had help with my dad's sister, who I'd mentioned, who was a nurse. She helped tremendously. A lot of the family was always there too. If someone was in an ambulance taken in, which happened a lot. In fact, I have lunch with the ambulance driver from Maple Grove. Yeah. That's how often she was at my house. So she's my friend on Facebook. She may even be watching this. But it's so important. People don't realize, and I realize everybody's lives are busy, but if you have a loved one going through something like this, a stroke or aphasia, you have to be their advocate. They really need you.
Mhm.
And my daughter is a huge advocate for me.
Mm.
She's wonderful for me.
Mhm.
Was she the one before we started that was in the background?
Yep. Yes.
Oh, you tell her I say thank you. Yeah, I have so much. I lived in the same home with my parents for 8 years,
Mm.
almost 8 years, but took care of them for 12.
Wow.
And so I have a huge affinity for someone like that. And
Well,
thank you.
just moved back in actually. Just just yesterday, almost like really close. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
So, what are some other tips of communicating with a person with aphasia, or anything else that we haven't covered to make sure the viewers who are watching understand aphasia?
Yeah, I had one other thought. I think something that's really important is including that person with aphasia in the conversation, kind of valuing their opinion and recognizing they are the same person, not to make decisions over them or exclude them, but just find a way to bring them into the conversation and value what they're saying, acknowledge their competence and just talk with them. The conversation might be different, but they're still the same person. And it's still really important to make sure they're a part of the family or the friend or the neighborhood conversations. And there are a lot of ways to support conversation. Maybe that means, bringing a pencil and paper and writing things down, kind of, or letting the person with aphasia write things down. Sometimes that helps to get the word out. Yeah.
With your phone.
Yeah. Or, doing a gesture, or can you show me that? Can you point to it? Or asking them questions like, what does it look like? Where do you find it? Like, just having them describe things. If they're stuck on one word, like, think of an alternate word or a descriptive word, kitchen, drawer. Oh, you're talking about the mix, whatever it is, like, just encouraging. Yeah.
Some advice I'd like to give as a former caregiver that I think you all three would agree with me is make sure the person with aphasia or who's been that stroke survivor, that it's their journey, that if they can't get it out and you're their advocate, usually the medical team or people like yourself will, if I'm asking, will look at the person with aphasia that I'm advocating for, but making sure it's their decisions, especially because they can think clearly and they just can't always have the thinking and the talking communicate the way they want at the right time.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really important.
So I know we've got some more things to talk about in aphasia, but there's a couple things. I know a few people that have been online watching. If you've been watching this show and you're thinking, well, I know somebody who's had a stroke and may or may not have aphasia, because a lot of people don't even know what that is. There is the link for their websites here, but if you want to get involved and support them, how can they do that?
Yes, thank you, Carla. So as we mentioned, we're a nonprofit organization. We are partially funded by donations, and we don't have any like large sponsorships or anything like that. So we have a small tuition for our programs for our participants that hasn't changed since the beginning of when MnCAN started. And so, but if people can't afford the tuition that's for our programs, we have scholarships available, and we usually ask people to pay what they can. And if they can't, we have funds that we want to make sure that's not a barrier for someone to get services. But yes, our website is www.mncan.org. And we have our upcoming biggest event of the year. Our biggest fundraising event of the year is coming up September 29th at Midland Hills in Roseville. We have our Break the Barriers for Aphasia Gala. It is a huge event. It is super fun. Last year we raised $70,000. Our goal this year is $80,000. It's just a place that we can bring our community together and really talk about aphasia, spread awareness. We have keynote speakers who have aphasia that will inspire everyone with their stories, as Janine has done today also. We want to make it about our participants. Without our participants, we don't have MnCAN. We're here to make sure that our participants have the best quality of life. And so we really want to focus on like a lot of our silent auction items, our art done by Janine might have an art piece in our silent auction and other participants. And so we're just really trying to highlight our community because the gala is a chance for people to come together in person. When we talk about our MnCAN groups, like Angie mentioned, there's 6 to 7 people that meet in a group once a week. That might be on Zoom or in person. But Janine might not know someone from another group, and then at the gala they meet, and then they meet more people with aphasia or more supporters or family members. And so it's really a way to really bring the community of MnCAN together. We also bring in a lot of people that maybe have never heard of MnCAN because they got invited by someone and then they learn about aphasia and spread the word. One fun thing I kind of think is really cool is we try to live our mission every day. So our auction, we have a live auction, and we're going to make sure that our auctioneer makes it more aphasia friendly by putting the amount bid up on a screen visually so that people who have aphasia can more easily follow what's going on, because numbers with aphasia can often be difficult as well. But we also are going to have just like we have a live band performing at our social hour called Husband Material. I'm just going to put a little plug in for them.
Oh, great.
One of the members is someone with primary progressive aphasia, and he's a participant in our program. And their band is phenomenal. They're jazz and things, and so we just really want to highlight kind of that community of MnCAN and really promote our programs and spread that awareness about aphasia.
That's great. That's great. Anything that you'd like to add to that, Angie?
No, I think, we're constantly growing to meet the needs of our community. So I think, if there is a need or an idea, like bring them to us. And if there is something that we can do to provide further education or further support, we love the ideas. We are about everybody that's a part of our programs, and that's the most important thing to us. So we want to do what we can as an organization to help that.
That's great. Anything that you'd like to add, Janine?
No, it just, again, the fact that aphasia is so totally different for everyone. It's crazy how different it is for everyone. So just understand that, it'll be good, it'll be good.
Yeah,
So.
it'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and starting this show and in the research, I wanted to make sure we got across what MnCAN, Minnesota Connect Aphasia now is, what it portrays, the mission, what aphasia is, the cause, a lot of people that have that, some of the statistics, Janina's story, of course, and to promote the gala and for those who want to support it. What if I missed anything? I know sometimes as we go through a show, we think of more things to add.
I think the only thing I would say is, we appreciate any support, again, whether that's sharing education to the community, what you learned tonight about aphasia, like that's huge. We want to really make sure that that awareness is spread far and wide, because as we talked about, that's just going to make all of us more understanding and patient and help someone with aphasia have a better communication experience in whatever setting that might be. Like we kind of maybe talked about, is aphasia can be invisible. So, if someone is in a wheelchair, someone might notice that they need help with the door, or they might need help with getting up a ramp. But if you have aphasia and there's no visible sign, people aren't going to know what supports you need. And so what we talked about with that extra time and trying other ways to support that conversation, like Angie said, is really important to kind of keep in your back pocket. And then, if you want more information, our website has all of our program information, how to contact us. You can sign up for a newsletter and get more information, find other resources. We'll have links for tickets for our gala on there as well, coming up later this week. We're always happy to get donations if people feel moved to help in some way, but we appreciate just any support by spreading the word is great. So. So
And
we
I'll go back in and tag those links for all that. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. We are so glad to be here and just kind of get the word out. We really appreciate it.
And I think, one final kind of thought in summarizing, like our mission at MnCAN is really helping people with aphasia participate in life without barriers. So anything we can do to help somebody participate in life again, whatever that may look like, sending the text message, ordering the coffee, reading the book, like that's our goal, is to help people just engage in their own lives. Whatever is important to them is important to us, that we can support them through that. So
That's fantastic. Yeah. Anything else?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure I could think of so many.
Yes, I know. Well, and
Passionate. We just love what we do. So hopefully you can see that we really enjoy what we do and that we want to help more people. So
absolutely no. And I am so thankful that I've known Jessica and her husband for a very long time, through growing up through junior high school. My brother played hockey with her husband, and we've been connected. Our families, the Walls, are near and dear to my heart. Wonderful, of course, to meet Angie and Janine. Aphasia is near and dear to my heart. So when you first reached out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this word in since 1995.
yeah.
And that's crazy. And well, you've done great things in the last year, and this organization's been around 10 years. I can only imagine, with the right visibility and the right people involved, where this could go. So thank you for all you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
so much.
getting more people aware. We really do.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Janine, for taking time out of your schedule to share your
Well,
story.
yeah, I'm sorry that I'm sorry I was not.
Don't apologize for having aphasia.
Nope.
You did
You're showing what it's like to try to communicate with aphasia. You did beautifully, and people, I think, have learned a lot because of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm so thankful. You're so brave. Thank you. Well, if there isn't anything else, I just really appreciate all the viewers who have tuned in. This will go live. Well, it's been live, but we're going to share the embedded link to 21 different platforms. Feel free to share with friends and family. My name is Carla Berlin, along with Jessica and Angie and Janine. Jessica and Angie are the co-directors of MnCAN. I'm the host of Around Town, and Janine, of course, has been sharing her story. And we're all grateful for you tuning in. Tune in next Tuesday evening, it'll be Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, for our special guest. And we'll be promoting that starting this weekend for more information. And again, for more information on MnCAN, there's a description of this above the video, but I'll go back in and put the links so you can reach out to either the co-executive directors or through their website directly. So thank you all for tuning in. I will see you next Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Around Town TV. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we are